Welcome to the College of Education 10-Minute Research Break, a podcast devoted to highlighting research by Illinois State University's College of Education, faculty, staff, and students. So grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and take a break with us.
Hi, I'm Tricia Klass. Today I'm talking with Gary Weilbacher, professor in the School of Teaching and Learning, whose specialty is in the area of middle school education. The article that we'll discuss focuses on an innovative middle school advisory program. Welcome, Gary. Thanks for coming today.
Thanks for having me.
In your article, you spend some time discussing what an advisory program is and the key needs these programs meet. Could you provide the listeners with some background on what are advisory programs and the role they serve?
Sure. Basically, advisory is a shortened period that takes place ideally every day with lower numbers of kids. 15 is usually a good number to cap it. Advisory is all about building community and about recognizing the affective needs of young adolescents. I think the best advisory programs take into consideration the questions and concerns that students have. While some of it is academic, I think the really good advisory programs focus more on the immediate social and emotional needs that kids have. And when you're a middle school student, you're really starting to develop your identity. And having time to talk about those kinds of identity issues, no matter what they are, be it family relations, peer relations, even relationships with other teachers within the same building, it's really nice to have an adult to talk to. Sort of the adult role is to become an advocate for that group of students. I think one of the main goals of advisory is that it's the notion that every student believes that there's at least one adult in the building that they can go to if they have issues. And by meeting daily and by doing community building activities and just carving out a time that gives kids a break from the so-called academic aspects of school is really important for these kids. So that's, in a nutshell, what advisory is supposed to do and what they're like.
Thanks. Your study focuses on a very unique advisory program that separated boys and girls. Could you discuss the literature on advisory and the possible gender implications?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the literature on advisory is pretty minimal, actually. When Jill and I wrote this piece, we did an extensive lit review, and I think we came up with maybe like 50 articles over the years that have been written about advisory. And it's interesting that most of the relevant and important work was done in the 80s and 90s, which was when the middle school movement was at its peak. Given the political stance taking place right now with education, there's not a whole lot of concern about the social emotional needs of kids, which I think is really unfortunate, especially when you consider the kinds of things that make the news around issues of schools often focuses on the denial of acceptance and the denial of social emotional needs for kids of any age. Unfortunately, the literature on advisory is a little bit sketchy. And in terms of gender, in the piece that Jill and I wrote and the research that we did, we found one article that was dealing with gender, and that was more a position related to feminization and how teaching is pretty much a gendered positionally as women's work. And the article that we read was more about feminization and how a lot of people look at middle school as fluffy and warm anyway, wrongly. And there was a concern that men wouldn't be able to do the kinds of things necessary for advisory. The gist of the article was that advisory is almost perceived as being feminine. And I don't think that there's really, in the work that we did, we didn't find that at all.
And let's follow up on that because you interviewed students, faculty, and the principal, and then you analyzed these transcripts, looked for themes by group, and it seems like you found 4 major areas worthy of discussion in the article. What do you think are the key results that you'd like to share?
I think one of the things that really struck me in looking at the piece again was how similar the comments of the students and teachers were. And one of the things that I do is I evaluate middle schools for the Horizon Schools to Watch program, which is connected to the National Forum to Accelerate Middle Grades Reform. What I'm finding is that in the best schools, when we do these evaluations, everybody's saying the same thing. Everyone's on the same page. One of the things that struck me again in looking at the article was how similar the comments were between the teachers, the principal, and especially the students. When we asked the students if advisory should continue to be part of the day, everybody said absolutely. There was not one student out of the 60-some that we had in the focus groups who said no, that advisory could go away. To me, that sends a powerful message that kids value spending time with adults, forming relationships, and building relationships with their peers. It's a strong indictment of what currently passes for educational reform, which is a reduction of kids to test scores. And the thing that's ironic to me is that Illinois is the only state in the union that has social emotional standards. Yet, what I see is more advisory programs in middle school being replaced by things like RTI or an extra math class or an extra reading class. I don't think it's necessarily what we need. I think that our work shows that the kids and the teachers are saying, hey, we need this time. We need this time in order for our students to be academically excellent. We need this time in order for our schools to be safe. And that's a message that I think is currently being lost. To me, it's a mistake to talk about making schools safer by bringing in more arms or by making them more secure, when the reality is if you have students and teachers who trust each other, these awful events aren't going to happen because the students are going to let the teachers know that something's up.
One quote is, what happens in advisory stays in advisory. And there were a lot of very deep and personal things from what I read in your article that students felt free to discuss.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's amazing the kinds of things that they discuss. And your point about confidentiality, I think, is a critical one. When kids feel safe, they'll open up. It's when they're in environments where things like bullying and sexual harassment and those kinds of things don't get discussed. They get swept under the rug, or they're treated in a punitive way rather than an educative way. That's where you're going to have problems. And one thing I'll say about the climate in schools that do have strong advisory programs is when you walk in the door, you can tell that this is a pleasant place to be. That kids come first, and that's the way it should be. Kids are not reduced to scores on tests or to whether or not they meet particular standards. They're treated as human beings. And I think that that's just a critical component of a good school.
In terms of your takeaway message, then, it's the importance of advisory. Is there an importance of keeping the sexes separate, or was that just a unique benefit that schools could consider?
Yeah, I've given that a lot of thought, and I think that it's a unique aspect. I think it's more important to have advisory, but the thing that I liked about the separate gender was that it grew out of kids' concerns. The kids themselves wanted time to talk to adults of the same gender, and a lot of it started with health issues in particular related to sexual development. But what it led into was this willingness to openly discuss how gender roles were impacting the climate of the school. When a boy said something and a girl took offense and the boy couldn't understand why, that became the topic for advisory, because the adults got together, they talked about what happened, and then they went in and explained how the language used didn't match the intent in the interpretation. So when the male teacher said to the boys, well, you said this is the way she took it, they were able to begin to discuss how genders interpret particular forms of language. I love that. I thought it was really a unique way to address things that often confuse young adolescents. And let's be honest, it confuses adults as well. So giving students practice at working through those tensions, I think, is extremely powerful and important. The other thing is that they didn't do separate gender every day. When we asked the students if they missed anything by being in separate genders, most of them said no, because they got to interact with each other throughout the day anyway. And in some respects, they were able to take what could turn into that stereotypical teenage drama and diffuse it before it became problematic.
A lot of interesting takeaways from this article. I really enjoyed reading it. Thanks so much, Gary.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me.
The full citation is Weilbacher and Lanier, 2012, An Examination of a Gender-Separate Advisory Program, Middle Grades Research Journal, Volume 7, Number 1, pages 17 to 35. Join us for future Research Break podcasts.
This podcast is sponsored by Illinois State University's College of Education, where we strive to assure that all students realize the democratic ideal through our teaching, research, and service to the field of education.